afternoon. It is Monday, and in preparation for the week ahead, I thought I'd make myself a veggie soup with the sorry looking vegetables I've got left over. I've just actually finished last week's video, which I've just put up, and I thought I'd just carry on talking about what I was talking about in that video, which is basically my thoughts on my phone use, which I wouldn't think that they're particularly bad, but I have noticed, as I was saying in the last video, that my brain chemistry has changed definitely, because my focus isn't the same as it was. I know I'm getting older, but it's definitely not the same as it was. And I find if my phone is next to me on the sofa, when the adverts come on, I'm then reaching for it, or I'm playing on a game while something is on that I actually want to watch. And it's very distracting. If I put it in a different room, I don't think about it. I'm not reaching for it. I'm not enticed by it at all. So I've done that for a couple of nights now, and that seems to be working. Where it doesn't seem to be working is if I'm mentally tired. Certainly when I get home from work, if it's a late night, all I want to do is be on my phone, just scrolling. I don't know, because it's a dopamine hit. I don't know if it's because I find it relaxing. I don't know what the intention is there, but I prefer to do that than to actually sit down and watch something and give my full attention to it. I think because maybe at work I've been concentrating so much for such a long period of time, I now want fast content that I don't have to pay a lot of attention to for a long time, possibly. And I'm not one for social media. I certainly, short form content isn't really for me. I've never really got on board with it. The only time that I actually found it as a bit of a lifeline was when my dad was dying. There's a lot of waiting around. You don't know what's going to happen. And I found the only solace I had was scrolling through TikToks or YouTube Shorts. I'm scrolling through it, and that seemed to be the only thing that could calm my inner turmoil. But that's the only time that I've really lent on social media as a crutch to get me through the day. And it was a distraction, a massive distraction as to what was going on in my day. But obviously, people use it for that very reason every day. Well, not for that very reason, but for a reason to distract themselves from the day, not realizing that it could be doing more harm than good. So it's quite a complex argument. There's a lot of positive things about social media, but the negative things, we're still figuring out how negative they are and how we should be living with social media. I mean, if you go back to the 70s and the 80s, before the invention of the internet, you would see people sitting on the train with their newspapers and things like that. How is that different from us sitting on our phones on the train today? We're still reading, we're still taking visual pictures, we may be listening to something. To be honest with you, I really don't know where the line is. And I was listening to an interview about reading and the benefits of reading, and they were saying when TV came along, it was considered the death of reading, because everyone would just be glued to their TVs and there'd be no other outlet for people to get their news from, or to think about, or philosophical questions and things like that you would get from a novel or from non-fiction, from a book basically. But that didn't happen, and I don't think social media is going to make those sorts of changes. I don't think it's going to eliminate reading, and I don't think it's going to make us all brain dead. But I do think we need to consider how we use social media. Certainly for me and my attention span, it's very noticeable. If my phone is beside me, I'm not concentrating on anything as much as me thinking, I'll just look that up on my phone, and then you look something up on your phone, and then it leads you to look at something else on your phone, and then by the time you want to come back to what you were doing before, an hour has passed. I think that's, for me, the biggest issue. Another issue is, I was saying in last week's video how much I realise I'm distracting myself, and I rarely, like, if I was to take a bath, I'd take my iPad in there with me, and I'd sit and I'd watch YouTube videos, and I'd catch up on my that's like the biggest luxury to me. I think that's so indulgent. I get to sit there, enjoy the hot water, maybe have a herbal tea on the side, and then catch up with all my favorite YouTube channels that I like watching. When I was younger and you couldn't take the TV in the bathroom, I would still spend the same amount of time in the bath, but I would just be sitting there thinking, daydreaming, being with my thoughts, and being perfectly content in that time. But now I can't remember a time when I have daydreamed. And when I was writing my books, I found that the dialogue for the characters came so easily for me, or to me, because I would daydream. I would spend hours daydreaming because I wasn't distracted by anything else. There was nothing else really to do. I would obviously read a lot, but in between those times, if I was doing the washing up or cooking or cleaning, I wouldn't listen to anything. I would just do them. And I would be thinking the whole time and daydreaming the whole time I was doing those things. And I know why I avoid being with my thoughts. It is because since my dad's death, I have found it very difficult, because my mind often goes back to him, back to the past, back to nice memories, and back to difficult times as well. And it can churn up a lot of stuff, but maybe I need to go through that. Maybe that is part of the healing process. And by constantly bombarding my mind with distraction, am I hindering my own healing? Anyway, these are a few things which I think I just need to experiment with and just see if I feel better for not being around my phone more. So no phone after 5. Like I said, it worked for a couple of days last week. Some days it didn't. Some days I just needed to be on my phone. I needed that distraction. Especially if you had a stressful time at work. I need just to take my mind off of it, I suppose. I don't want to be thinking about it all that much. Did I tell you what I was making? I'm making a veggie soup. And then I'll also figure out whether it's working with my writing as well, because I am trying to write my next segment, my next episode of the Strake Mysteries. And I'm wondering, if I have this detachment from my phone, will my writing come easily or easier to me than it has been up to now? So it's a good experiment to figure out. Just doing chunks of sweet potato. And I'm going to thicken this with lentils rather than potato for a bit of a change. My fridge is so cold, that's actually frozen. I'm just going to give this a bit of a wash as well. Leeks tend to have soil in them. What I am pleased about, however, is my morning routine. I do love having a really easy morning routine that I can get the things that I want done, and I'm not worrying myself with like, what am I going to eat for breakfast, or what am I going to wear in the morning? All of those decisions are made before me. So organisation is key. When you have the time, I'm lucky that I don't work full time, so I've got a bit of leeway in all of this. But yeah, there's certain things which are working out really well for me, and I'm very pleased that I found a formula that suits me. But there's other things that it's just set in motion. Is this right? Is this healthy? Should I be continuing with this, or am I using it as a crutch to help me through some of my emotions? Last year, I was still sorting out a lot of things around my dad's death and looking after my mum. This year, hopefully, touch wood, things will be a bit more settled. So I need to start looking at myself and making sure I'm doing what's right for me and caring for myself. So yeah, I think it's something that needs to be tackled within me. Anyway, got my veggies all chopped up. I'm just going to put a pint of water in there, I'll put some dried lentils. These are the orange ones. So it's like sweet potato and lentil soup. I might put some curry leaves in there as well, actually, for a bit of extra flavour. Put about a quarter of the pack in there. And I'll throw in a chicken stock as well. And just leave that to blip away on the stove gently. And then I've got a nice soup for the rest of the week, although it'll probably just last me. Actually, it should last me at least 5 days, so we'll see. And I'll put a bit of salt and pepper in there as well. I will season the soup. That's one thing done. I've still got a chicken casserole to make and a few things to sort out. I'll do my clothing this evening as well, figure out what I'm going to wear for the rest of the week. I don't think the weather is too great. I think it's going to be raining for most of the week. So yeah, just wrapping up warm and trying to stay dry. That's my intention for the week. Welcome to a very wet Wednesday. I don't mind the rain when I'm indoors all day, but if I were going to work, I know I would be very grumpy by now. It, however, is good for soup season, so I'm glad I made a sweet potato and lentil soup at the start of the week. I did include curry leaves in the end. I just popped out and bought them, and it turned out great. I'll be having that for my lunch today. While I was making the soup, I spoke about my realization that I find it difficult to be away from my phone. So I've been trying to enforce a curfew of no phone after 5. I put it in a different room and to do something else with my time. I'm noticing some days are easier than others. If I've been at work, I have this twitch to keep checking my phone. I think I also play games on my phone so that I know when a message or an email comes in. I think I use social media in exactly the same way because that notification is going to come up. If I'm on my phone, I can't miss anything. This is such a debilitating mindset because I'm never truly shutting off from the day. I have been listening to an audiobook called Time Management in 20 Minutes a Day by Holly Reason Hannah. Some helpful advice on utilizing your time and decluttering your digital life, which zaps so much of my time and attention because I'm always looking at my emails, even when it's just complete junk. But she also goes on to talk about boredom. And as I was saying earlier in the week, I've noticed I'm never bored because I've always got something to distract me. I did try sleeping without my headphones the other night and I fell asleep really quickly, but I woke at 3 and I couldn't get back to sleep, so I decided to listen to something. Then last night after work, I didn't want to read my physical book. I just felt it was too mentally taxing and I wasn't meant to be on my phone, although I did scroll TikTok for 10 minutes. I then put on a podcast and I fell asleep. When I went out walking after lunch on Monday, I took my headphones. So I'm still finding it difficult to accept boredom and just being with my thoughts. And I think it's because I feel it's a waste of time, but I would like just to sit and think without worrying about using that time well. Um, I did manage this morning to enjoy my breakfast with no distractions. I sat on my sofa and watched the rain. I'm going to take a bath tonight and again, not have any distractions, nothing to watch, nothing to listen to or read. I read this morning that they are doing a similar experiment with teenagers at the moment, putting a curfew on their phone use to see if it minimalizes their anxiety and depression. Now, I'm fortunate that I didn't grow up with social media and Facebook only came out literally, I think, in the last year of my school year. So I've never known the impact of it in that sense, living with it at school every day. But certainly it has played a part in my mental health over the years. As I've gotten older, it has changed, and I no longer have those negative thoughts about social media. But for children and young adults, figuring it all out must trigger so much anxiety. Now, my issue is I don't want to feel like I'm on alert all the time, but there is a number of reasons why phone curfews could be a really good idea for so many people. That's my theory, anyway. I'm still trying to figure out time management because the one thing I'm not doing still is sitting down and writing. I am in that period of time where I'm still researching and I've got a lot of books to read and to get through, and I am making enough time for it. It tends to be more over the weekend that I'm actually sitting down, but I'm not taking so many notes because I'm thinking, oh, I know this information already. Anyway, that's my complication. But yeah, it just goes to show that I think there's more I could be thinking about in time management and getting the things that I would like and I enjoy doing, but don't seem to have the attention span or the motivation to do it. So the next audiobook I'm going to listen to is How to Do the Work by Nicole Lepera. But right now, I'm going to have some lunch. I hope you have a lovely week ahead of you, and I will see you next week for another video. Goodbye.